Here are the top 3 conditioning methods for boxing and combat sports. Fitness and endurance has been paramount to success in boxing and combat sports for many years. This is why you've seen many fighters use conventional training methods such as running, skipping, circuits to help improve their fitness. With the introduction of sports science, you see a lot of fighters trying out more unconventional methods, such as high-intensity interval training, swimming, rowing, many different ways to help improve physical fitness. And this is why at Boxing Science we get a lot of questions on what are the best conditioning methods to use with fighters. Now, we're very particular in terms of our approach because we're wanting to optimize the physical adaptation. We have our 3-pillar approach, which is peripheral adaptations, muscle buffering conditioning, and central adaptations. This helps our athletes improve their anaerobic capacity, which is vital for working in high-intensity bursts, having the ability to perform these bursts, endure them, and also recover from them effectively, and carry that through a 12-round fight. And also we're wanting to improve our ability to work in the red zone, that is above 90% maximum heart rate, and improve aerobic capacity. This is vital for endurance over the championship fights. And this is what we do at Boxing Science. We prepare boxers for championship level fights, whether that's British, European, or world title fights. And in this video, we're going to be sharing the top 3 conditioning methods that we use with our fighters. The third top conditioning method is high-intensity circuits. At Boxing Science, we use high-intensity circuits for a range of different reasons. We help improve cardiovascular fitness, but we also can work on speed and power endurance. It gives you a little bit more than what you'd get from a run or from the air bike. But the reason why we use this is because it's focusing on your ability to perform complex movements under high fatiguing situations, challenging your coordination, your concentration, your ability to hold form under fatigue. And this is what you need actually in boxing. Also, you can do a full body conditioning stimulus. So if you have a fighter that is struggling with their upper body conditioning during their fights, circuits might be the way to go. Also, circuits are fantastic for off-feet stimulus. So this is fantastic to use the early stages of camp where a fighter might be a little bit too heavy to do running. Good way to break them in terms of from an enjoyment perspective, because the circuits can be quite challenging. And also with a fighter that might have specific goals, let's say that they do struggle with their concentration and fatigue, or they do struggle with their upper body conditioning. They're wanting to try and hold their form in them later rounds. Circuits are a fantastic way to do this. At Boxing Science, we use a range of different circuits, from bodyweight circuits that we use with our amateur boxing program, many types of bodyweight circuits that are primarily looking at red zone adaptations. This is working at 90% maximum heart rate. With these circuits, we're looking at going in high intensity bursts, intervals around about 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, or 30 seconds on, 15 seconds off. And we do this for a duration between 3 and 4.5 minutes with a 1 to 2 minute recovery. And we also do this with equipment as well, primarily looking at fast explosive exercises, high repetition exercises as well. This is what's going to help our athletes get into the red zone. Air bike, battle ropes, running on the spot, med ball slams, all fantastic exercises to put into your circuits. And then we can do power endurance or speed endurance circuits where we're looking at working in very short intervals with a longer recovery. These short intervals being more working on speed and power exercises. We can do jumps, kettlebell swings, med ball slams again. Air bike's pretty good to be using here as well. And we're looking at 15 seconds on to 45 seconds off and doing a continuous session, 15 to 20 reps in total. And this is what's working on muscle buffering conditioning here. These are different ways that we use circuits at Boxing Science. So the second most important conditioning method for boxing and combat sports is running on the treadmill or the curve treadmill. Now, running has been fundamental to improving a fighter's fitness for many years. That's why you see so many legends of the sport doing some kind of running. Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao doing road runs or track runs. It's been fundamental to improving fitness for many, many years. In recent years, more fighters are now using high intensity interval training or different variations of that. And the best way to do this, we believe at Boxing Science, is using some form of treadmill, whether it's a motorized treadmill, you're going to have a fixed intensity, or using a non-motorized treadmill. So we call this the curve. Non-motorized treadmill is where the athlete is performing the speed and controlling the speed through their own running action. The reason why we like to use treadmills for our high intensity interval training is because we can really control the intensity. It's also going to be reducing impact forces that you're likely to get through track running or outdoor road running. And it's really important that we track performance when doing our conditioning. For example, using a heart rate monitor, taking lactate, making sure that we're taking speeds as well. It's really important that we do this to make sure that we're optimizing the adaptation. Fighters are extremely fit athletes, so they need to be worked in a specific way to make sure that they're targeting that adaptation, optimizing their performance. Using treadmills and using the fixed intensity of target speeds on the curve, using fixed duration, work to rest ratios and everything like that, that's much more manageable doing it on a treadmill rather than running outdoors. When we use the motorized treadmill, we're doing predominantly high intensity interval training. So we're targeting 90% of maximum heart rate or above. This is what we call the red zone. We're working at intervals around about 4 minutes long and 2 minutes off. And then we can do different kinds of central adaptation workouts. So we can do pyramid style workouts on here where we're working towards 30-second intervals as well. On the curved treadmill, this is where we're going to be using shorter intervals, probably around about 2 minutes is a max that I do on a curved treadmill. We can do various different kinds of training on here. So not only we do high intensity interval training on here, but we also do our muscle buffering capacity work. So this is where we're targeting a certain lactate to make sure that they are controlling that lactate levels. And this is what's going to help them work through the gears and work through explosive movements during a fight. Another advantage of using the curved treadmill is that you can do sprint-based training. So you can really work maximum speed. You can work at different thresholds of your maximum speed as well. We do a muscle buffering protocol, 12 seconds on, 48 seconds off, our repeated sprint protocol, which is challenging an athlete's ability to control their lactates whilst doing explosive movements. And this can really transfer to working in them explosive bursts on fight night. And doing this on the curve, you get that feedback on their speed, and also it's a lot safer than running outside. You're reducing them impact forces because of the curved nature of the treadmill, the soft rubber slats, driving the belt back. This is reducing impact forces whilst also running at high speeds. So this is why we use a curve so much and strategically in our Boxing Science conditioning methods. So our number one conditioning method for boxing and combat sports is the assault bike, otherwise known as the air bike. Now the assault bike is a machine that targets lower body and upper body conditioning. This is why it's so good for boxing and combat sports, because it's a full body action. Also, it's fantastic because it's the off-feet conditioning tool. Using running can end up being quite fatiguing. You know, you ever feel like you do a tough run, you feel sore the next day, going into boxing and sparring, performance might be affected. That's what we don't want to do at Boxing Science. We want to target them adaptations without taking too much away from the boxing training. We do use the assault bike for high intensity interval training, but it's quite difficult for fighters to get into that red zone. We're quite strategic on the volume, the intensity that we use. We often use pyramid sessions to try and unlock maximum speed and then take advantage of getting up to the high amounts of power. On the other side, where we're doing longer duration and we're then getting our red zone adaptations from there. And we keep the sessions quite short on this because the lactate can end up building up. However, we do use the assault bike quite often in our power endurance work, whether that's sprint interval training or our repeated sprint training protocols. Particularly for the sprint interval training, so that's where we're doing our 30-second max out efforts with 3 minutes recovery. Formerly, we use the curve for this. However, we found that boxers' running technique was quite affected, especially towards the back end of the session. And also, the speeds dropped off quite significantly. This affected the amount of lactate that they actually produce, because we take lactate as a marker of how far that they've pushed themselves in the session. So we've started using this salt bike because we've actually found that this is a safer and more effective way of performing 30-second max out sprints, because the speed is maintained a lot better during a single rep and also across the full session. We're also able to push to higher lactates. We've seen much higher lactates on the 30-second maximum sprints using the salt bike versus using the curve. With the lactates being higher, this is showing that it's more effective. However, it's also a lot safer. So we've had people running on the curve, being at that maximum effort, and their technique starts going. Trying to run at high velocities under high amounts of fatigue ends up being quite risky. That high risk was meant with high reward. So with the salt bike, we know that we're going to be reducing that risk, doing off-feet conditioning, no impact forces to deal with. Technique is quite fixed on the machine anyway. Even if they start rocking from side to side, it's not going to be as impactful. It's not going to be as strenuous to the athlete. They're able to push harder for longer, and also they're not going to be as effective in terms of their technique and at risk of injury. So the assault bike is a way to do our sprint interval training and our repeated sprint protocol at more reward, but less risk. And this is why the assault bike is at number 1. So they're the top 3 conditioning methods for boxing and combat sports. Now, even though we've rated them in order, with the assault bike being our number 1 choice, that doesn't mean all the way through training camp we use that single one, because we're wanting to work towards different kinds of physical adaptations. We're also wanting to work towards their individual needs, situations, and what their current training goals are. So we use a range of different conditioning methods across these top 3 to suit that individual. Now, if you're wanting help with this, we have programs that actually cover these top 3 conditioning methods. We have our circuit conditioning program, high intensity interval training program, and we also have our assault bike conditioning program. The links for these are all in the description, and you can get 50% off your first purchase on the Boxing Science website by using this discount code, BoxingScience50. Okay guys, so that's the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content and you support the growth of the channel. Hopefully see you on the next video.